back to another episode of Unfiltered Wrestling. As by ever, we're joined by the Encyclopedia Tim. Hi, Tim. Nice to see you, mate.
Hi, Lee. It's good to see you too. And I have to say, I'm very tired after watching that.
Yeah, so obviously we had Money in the Bank last night, so this is our Money in the Bank review. I'm not as tired because I did try and stay up, but I fell asleep at points. But I've caught up all this morning, so let's head straight into it. And we started off with the women's ladder match. What do you think?
The women were far more sensible than the men were with their spots. I can say that. I loved it. I can't argue with it. I think everybody shined and did their moments, but the story they were telling in the ring was great, such as the women aren't stupid. You climb down a couple of runs if you're going to get hit by anything. So I was impressed. Spots that are definitely worth a mention were the dueling code reds onto the ladders. Just essentially lots of carefree wrestling. I think some people certainly highlighted their future within the company. Others, I think, did what they needed to get over.
Yeah, so a couple of spots I'm going to mention, and you know me, I like to critique. So, and it weren't the ladies' faults, but obviously them trying to squash Rhea with the ladder and the buckles weren't right, so it took a couple of tries, so that was a bit clunky. And then obviously trying to bury Rhea with the ladders just weren't falling correct for them. So they just kept sliding off, so it really ended up with like one ladder on her. But I obviously get they were trying to make the pile. But again, you can't control what Metal's going to do, so not their fault, but I appreciate the idea. It was good storytelling.
No, it didn't come off so well, but I did like the actions. I did like the attempted burying of Rhea. It's worth mentioning these ladders are not like moving parts. They go wherever they want when you throw them. They bounce wherever you need them to go. At times, they just won't do what you want them to do. I also like to mention the spot with, I think it was Julia and Roxanne Perez lifting up and launching Alexa Bliss into that ladder. That looked a really nasty bump, really nasty. She took it well, and it looked good on camera. I think that's the important part.
The only one thing, and again, it was mid-match and it weren't really thin, with Julia, and this might be down to her inexperience, the ladder did fall into her back and she didn't react. She just carried on with the move, and I get it, but I thought an older veteran would have sold that a bit and then carried on with the move spot.
Remembering that Julia is an international talent. She's wrestled throughout the world for years, especially in New Japan, and WWE were definitely going after her after her contract expired. So I wouldn't call her a newbie, but at the same time, she probably hasn't had that much interactions with ladders, so that might explain why she was unaware of the bump that she might have to take as a result of that. That said, I thought she did really well. I also like the fact that wrestlers were interacting with her hair, using that as a weapon, as a way to distract her. I think that's really clever.
Yeah, I think overall all six ladies did well. It was Rhea's first ladder match, and I think she handled it quite well. That little look between Alexa and Rhea after one of the spots in between the ladder, I just think, overall, I think it was a really good, solid women's match. And it makes me quite looking forward to Evolution in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, definitely. I think a special mention should go out to Stephanie Vaquer, who wrestled on Friday night, and that was a grueling match. She was then involved in the tag match at Worlds Collide, and that wasn't an easy match either. I watched that, and she really hung in there. And then we're doing massive spots, like the Devil's Kiss on the ladder was another great spot. But she wrestled almost 3 times, and I kept mentioning it. In 24-hour period, she would have been shattered by the end of that.
That led on to the impromptu Dom and
Octagon Junior. Again, I watched the interaction on Worlds Collide. I thought it was very clever in the way in which they built it up. Dominic was pictured sitting in the crowd, and it wasn't until the end of the match where he got involved. and he actually looked quite strong at that point. So I was excited about when they were announced that they were going to have a match, and I don't think the match disappointed. It was what I would expect. I expected Dom to win the match, but I expected it to be lots of high flying moves, lots of crazy spots, and especially from Octagon Jr., his moveset was unreal.
Yeah, I totally agree. The only thing I would have liked, because I think I was enjoying the match, was just for it to go on a bit longer. And I get it was just chucked in at the last minute. Because I was enjoying it, it felt like it ended a bit too quick. But both of them put on a really good show. I think it really helped Don, and it really helped introduce Octagon Jr. to the WWE audience.
No, I agree. I think the problem you've got is the pay-per-view went on for 3 hours and 14 minutes with only 5 matches on the card. That's still quite a long time. Backlash was less than 2 hours 45, so there's an extra half hour. I think you have to have a short match. You have to include it. So I'm not surprised it was only so short. I don't think this is the end of the AAA and Dominic Mysterio interactions, so you're going to see more of it.
Yeah, going back to the timings, one thing I did like about the show is they did give both ladder matches plenty of time, which was really good.
I agree. I think I was worried that we'd have to shave a few minutes off here and there, and instead what we got was quite a solid pay-per-view, or PLE as they like to call it now.
Yeah, so moving on, this is where we disagreed last week, but we had the Women's Intercontinental match and Becky won, and by cheating, like you said in your predictions.
Yeah, as I said, for anybody that hasn't seen the predictions, go and watch it on YouTube Shorts or TikTok. I got 3 out of 4, so I was well impressed. Yeah, and again, they beat the living hell out of each other. What an absolutely solid match. I could have watched them go on for another 10 minutes quite happily.
Yeah, I know I was a bit critical after the Backlash match, but this was a really good solid match. And again, credit to Becky being the veteran, but she gave as good as she got, really, so she allowed the time, which is really nice to see. I think the ending, like the hand raising, went on a bit too, because the deal was just raise my hand and then she kept pulling her back. I think that weren't needed, but obviously the beatdown after was just for the redemption. So overall, yeah, a really, really good match.
I think we're going to see a third match. I think I'd be tempted to put it on. I suppose you could put it on Crown Jewel. I'd be tempted to leave it for Evolution, but it would need to be a stipulation match, and they will absolutely tear the house down. That match was fantastic. I think the only thing that did surprise me, I was convinced that that Bayley was coming out, and when she didn't, I was a little bit shocked. It was at that point I thought, well, we're definitely going to get a match 3.
Yeah, they might be saving Bayley for Evolution because it's Evolution 2. They've got to win something there, so that might be Bayley's return, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what else the women could have done in that match. I think that highlights just how strong the women's division is. It is like you could get away with Becky being the Intercontinental Champion and not everybody going, well, that was a bit silly. We're all thinking that was a really sensible idea. It's going to elevate the belt, I think.
Yeah, and as you know, I haven't been a great fan of Becky since her return, but again, like I've said, she really impressed me last night. Other than MC Hammer flare trousers, but other than that, she did really impress me, and yeah, I've got great things to that. I thought I'd be mad that she was champ, as we spoke about before, but actually, like you said, it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's really good for the title, and the way in which that story was told so far, I think was really good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I, on the other hand, liked the fact that she was wearing totally different attire. I think that works. It will certainly distinguish her from her previous persona as the full man. Now it's just like, I'm an evil man.
The only thing is, like the third jacket was very Seth Rollins, and I know they're a married couple and all that, so they're probably. But and I know the character is the man, but is there sort of room for 2 Seths, like style wise?
Yeah, but if you've noticed, Seth's like toned it down a lot more of the last couple of weeks. He's showing them more, he's coming out more as a heel as a result of that. Whereas Becky's now essentially taken on his flamboyancy and I think it works for her so that she looks different than what she was before.
Yeah, but he's only had to tone it down because she keeps nicking all his clothes. So, but then that led on to the men's ladder match. I've got to say it. I've got to say it. Penta impressed me. Doesn't mean I'm clicking with him, but he did impress me in this match, like all of them did.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Everybody was fantastic. The one sour point I've got with it was Andrade losing his foot in a couple of times. A couple of his spots in the middle looked a little bit clunky, and I was like, "Oh no!" I really felt sorry for him because he was trying. He just missed his foot in, or he'd missed like a little landing, and that messed him up for a little bit. He turned around and he got it back together. So full on hands on for that one. But I'm with you. The men were fantastic. They did great high spots. Penta looked great. I love the Mexican Destroyer onto the ladder. If you're going to try and kill someone, let's try and do it with a ladder, shall we say? Yeah, I was really impressed.
And we got the debut of the Fireball ladder, new character in the wrestling world.
It is. I mean, the ladder looked great, and I liked it. It looked a lot stronger, but there's a lot of product placement throughout the whole of WWE at the moment, and I don't know how I feel about it. But yeah, it added to it, and especially the fact that they painted it red, so it looked like it was something very important.
To the ending, you did predict there'd be some shenanigans with the Heyman Seth faction. We still ain't got a name yet. And then obviously the whatever this bloodline is, if they even called the bloodline now. I actually thought Solo was going to do it before Jacob turned. I was getting ready to text you and say, I told you Solo was going to do it. And then we got that turn. Do you think this was the right time for the turn?
Yes. After watching SmackDown, after what Solo said to Jacob, and he took coming around the corner, I thought that was brilliant. I was like, right, we're getting the turn very quickly. I guessed that Bron and Bronson Reed would come out. That was obviously going to happen. I think they timed that really well. I'm glad they gave sort of like a good 15, 20 minutes before people started coming in and causing carnage. That was clever. I then liked that Jacob and JC Mateo came out together to try and sort out the other two. And I think that's the important part to remember. Jacob didn't come out to help Solo. He helped out to come and kick the other two's backsides. And that's the story I think people need to remember. This is where we're going to go, because when he does then put him through the ladder with it's a rock bottom. It wasn't a spinning Solo. It was a rock bottom. It made it look even more devastating.
Yeah, I totally agree. When we knew the shenanigans was coming, and I thought, well, here we go. Obviously, Punk and Sammy's coming down now, and the fact that they brought out, I don't know what we're calling it, the bloodline. I thought, oh, actually, this is quite an interesting angle. And the fact they made both teams look strong. Because I know, obviously, in Raw, they've been pushing Seth's team as to be this great faction that destroys everyone. But they didn't destroy Jacob or JC. So I think it was me to see that they allowed both teams to be strong.
Yeah, if you watch SmackDown, both groups are in the ring for the confrontation. And I thought, oh, we're building to this. And then there was a big standoff between Jacob and Bron Breakker. And I thought, yeah, I really want to see that match now. This match has got like money written all over it. So I think they'll visit that down the line somewhere. By showing both groups to be strong, you're giving an option. Now that Solo and Jacob are going to have a storyline, imagine it will accumulate into something at SummerSlam. I don't think you do it, maybe main event, but I don't think you do anything at Crown Jewel. Not unless you do like a DQ finish. You want the match to have something. So, yeah, I think there's lots of legs with this one.
And do you think that Seth needed to win? Because I didn't. I think he's main event enough and he can slot himself into that storyline. I've got a feeling, like you've said, they're going to cash in tomorrow because in the post-show again, Triple H made it clear to make a point that we've now got people with briefcases, so let's see what happens tomorrow type thing. So obviously, I think, yes, by the end of tomorrow night, Seth's going to be champ. So it's a fast way to get the belt on him. But I was still a little bit disappointed that one of the others didn't get that chance, like an LA Knight or whatever.
Okay, so I on the other hand, see the flip side. I looked at the lineup, and if you took Seth away, you had great wrestlers and great people that can show matches, but I didn't think you could tell a story until WrestleMania with the other people. I absolutely adore Penta. He's definitely my favourite guy on Raw at the moment. I like the story with El Grande Americano. I know I wasn't with it originally. I am now. I think it's a great idea, but he's never neither of those two are gonna main event WrestleMania. Andrade, the same. He's just not that caliber. Solo's going to need some work before I think we get there. The only other guy would have been LA Knight, and I don't think he's ready yet. I think he will have I think he'll have a championship shot, but I don't think he's ready there yet. So for me, the only winner was going to be Seth.
And was you surprised that we didn't see Punk or Sammy, or do you think that's all going to happen tomorrow night on Raw?
Look, so I've been very honest about this. I think Sammy is going to turn on Jey Uso, and that's what's going to cost him the belt. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Jey will beat Gunther, bearing in mind, and we'll talk about it later, the state in which he was after the match. I think then you're going to see Sammy come down and celebrate with him, and then he's going to turn on him and join Seth, and Seth will hold the belt at that point. So I can't see why this doesn't work. It is a quick way to get the belt on. I would imagine that we'll get a Seth Rollins CM Punk world title match at SummerSlam, which is what we all want, really. We all want them in that match. So I think it's a question of how can you do it quickly and meet all the deadlines.
Yeah, and again, as we know, and we spoke about before, WWE got such a busy schedule with a POE every two and a half weeks. You've got to do quick storytelling to get your build to SummerSlam. We haven't got that time like we had between WrestleMania, Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. It was like 12 weeks. They're literally telling stories in 2.5 weeks now. So this is the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's the easiest way. And I think Seth really needs the belt. I think we need that big heel character on Raw, and he'll get even more heelish with the belt.
And then obviously that then led on to the tag match. I liked this match. I think John and Logan, until the end, did a brilliant job of being the heel tag team. They cut off Jey Uso quite a lot as well, so we didn't see much Cody until towards the end. I think it was clever. I appreciate what Logan Paul was trying to do, like with the catching of the drone. I think there's one spot where he got suplexed off the rope, and then Jey was meant to frog splash him. I think the drone didn't land in the right place to catch the frog splash, so obviously we had to see it on the replay. But again, they're trying to be innovative, and I think it was a good spot to try and do. And I think Logan Paul's the good person to try and do that with.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. It was a good, solid match. The storytelling was great, as you said. Cutting Jey off for a large portion of the match gave us all that anticipated Cody hot tag. What I will say is that hot tag was ruined a little bit when John and Logan were literally almost at loggerheads. I think we missed an opportunity because it didn't feel as pop worthy as when it happened. I watched it and thought, oh, I think we missed the trick there. But yeah, again, Logan with the drone, I absolutely loved. I thought at first he was going to hit a Spanish fly holding a drone. I was like, oh my God, are we really going that far? But it hit the superplex. Yeah, I think the drone, I think he needed just to twist the drone around to catch the splash. He didn't. But again, hit that splash from quite away from the ring. So well done, Jay, for hitting that. Again, another great point to mention was the spear onto John Cena across the tables. At first, I thought the table was supposed to break, and I was like, "Oh, have we done this again?" But then with Logan Paul's moonsault from the ring apron to that, I thought, no, that was the way it was meant to go.
Yeah, 100%. With the John and Logan fighting, I don't know, because I don't know if you know too much about Logan outside of wrestling. I know he's got a couple of federal cases coming up with this crypto stuff. So I don't know if they're trying to distance John and Logan just in case things go south with all this outside interference and stuff.
No, I don't think that was the case. I think these two guys are being portrayed as egomaniacs. I think the story was well done. I think what you wanted is one person wanted to take the pin and the other one didn't want the other one to take the pin. So that story told me I'm not aware of what's going on outside. I'm not worried about it. So for me, I don't think that was as big a deal as that was is being said.
No, that does make sense, because at one point you did hear Logan say, "Well, I am Logan Paul." So that's the eagle. So to what you're saying, it does make sense. And then obviously we had the ending. I'm happy, because as a fan, I was sort of shocked at the beginning of the week. I think it was ruined a little bit, and again, no one's fault. I think they obviously tried to give truth to do the spear to make you think it was Baker, but his jacket come up a little bit, so you saw the black on his back, so you knew it was a black guy underneath, which then straight away, you just knew it was truth. Again, not people's fault, that's a costume issue, but a nice, shocking ending. And do you think that works for the storytelling?
We'll come on to that later at some point. Yes, I do. I think the story works so much better. I know I had originally had John to pin Jay. I think this works so much. This is better. What it does is it gives Cody that first win. We can build towards that match again, because there's no doubt that Cody's got to be the guy to beat that. We've said it before. But we have to build a good story towards it. I'm curious to see how they get round this. I am really curious to see how they get round this. Yeah, it's a strange one. The ending was the right way if you want to protect everybody else in the ring. I too thought, oh, maybe we're doing a spear because we think it's Roman. But then I was like, but Roman's got nothing to do with John Cena, so that doesn't make any sense. And like you, the hoodie came up too far, and I was like, okay, so that's our truth, and that works. I like the fact that he hit the belt and then threw the belt outside the ring, which means this is going to get personal.
Yeah, and like you said, we'll talk about that, but I am intrigued to know what that original ending would have been, because some rumours online are suggesting this was only put together in the last 2 days. We'll get onto that more deeper on Tuesday. But would it have been John pinning Jay? Or like I thought Logan was going to pin Jay? And were John and Logan meant to win?
Yeah, I see that. That's it. I think they've done a good job of whatever was going to be in place. They've essentially stuck a giant big sticker over it, and we're all going, well, that's the best ending they could have come up with. If the idea was that it was only put together in the last few days, then well done, because again, it looks like that should have been the ending. It wasn't something I'd considered, so I don't know what it would have been.
And as you mentioned earlier, Jay's not in a good way, and he's got a match tomorrow night on Raw. We know Gunther's style. Gunther is heavy. How much impact do you think they've worked Jay this week is going to have on the match tomorrow night?
Yeah, but I think huge. I think that's the story they're going to tell. He's wrestled. He's got so many storylines. If he comes out to Raw and is involved in another storyline on top of what the storylines he's already involved with, which would make sense, then that to me is great. That's really good. They've pushed him really hard. And I'm going to say this, and I know this is my favourite saying, the entrances on the two faces coming out, my God, they're over like Rover, the pair of them. And I think it was very clever to have Cody Rhodes, who is quite clearly the bigger star, come out first to allow Jay to have his moment. Because he looked great. He absolutely connects with the fan base. They love him. I don't think this title run will be his only title run. I think he's going to get another shout at it down the line. But the story they're telling with him having so many stories, I think will make him even more beloved by the fan base.
Yeah, and like I said, I strongly believe there's going to be a cash-in tomorrow, which is sort of going to break everyone's heart because, like you said, he's over with the fans. So when he does get that title back, it's going to make it even greater than what this run is. So I think it is clever with how they're going to do this.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This is it. And the cash-in actually protects him, especially after a match with Gunther, where he'll probably win by like a surprise roll-up or something like that. And he'll look absolutely cream crackered, at which point Seth's going to run down and we're going to see the cash-in.
Yeah, so overall for this PLE, I actually went into this thinking the way we've been speaking, okay, it's maybe a bit too predictable. Don't really like that. Then I was thinking we were going to have a Roman return or maybe a Truth return. That did happen, which was the feel-good moment. But the actual match performances were very solid. I actually really enjoyed this.
I'm with you 100%. Whilst, like you, I thought the card was very predictable. I liked that it was predictable because they were the stories that they were telling. Too many oddballs, and we'd have all thought, well, that doesn't make sense. Why have they done that? While we're doing paint by numbers, the picture's still looking out like a Mona Lisa. So for me, it was great. I think for the best match on the night, it's between the two ladder matches, although the women's intercontinental match is just a little bit behind. So I think that shows the quality. And as I said, we've got more coming. So we better watch out for this.
And I think that's good for Money in the Bank PLE to have. You can't pick between both ladder matches is ideal for what the PLE is. So they've done their job really well. But it's also that time of the week. I don't want to do that or SmackDown with you, but who is Tim's top talent of the week?
So Tim's top talent of the week is. It was a toss-up between somebody who was competed on SmackDown and then on that PLE, and it wasn't even their brand. Originally, I thought about Penta because I thought he'd done such a great job. But as I've mentioned her before, I'm going to give it to Stephanie Vaquer. She's gone through a grueling program for the last couple of days.
Yeah, I think it's very well deserved to her. Well, Tim, thanks for your time this week, and I will see you Tuesday for our question of the week.
Yeah, Lee, I'll see you Tuesday. Have a good one.